Normal Christianity is Spirit-led Christianity, and this is Living in the Spirit. In the episodes of Living in the Spirit, we're going to go on a journey and discover what living free really looks like. Is it possible to live a life by design, full of purpose and impact? Do you desire for more meaning, more peace? We're going to learn how to live an unrestricted, spontaneous life. And we'll discover our true nature and purpose and access the life we're meant to live. Isn't it time to live life different? If you desire to be mentored and shown the keys to living an epic and overflowing Christian life, then join me for Living in the Spirit. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Living in the Spirit.
So I'm going to jump right into this. We've had a little bit of opportunities to talk. And my first question I have for you, Steve, is what's the ultimate goal of a human life?
Okay, that's for me, I mean, that question could be answered in many different expressions, right? Mm-hmm. But for me personally when I came to know Christ the first time, I found that I found the most precious part of myself. So, when I first came into contact with who Christ was, his work, and who he is, I started to discover that was my true nature and therefore my true potential. So when I started to discover that, I started to recognize in his life, hey, this is how I feel on a daily basis. It might have not been the general characters around me, or it was not what I was definitely seeing growing up, but very quietly, inwardly, that's the way that I felt, but I didn't have a reference point. So but I knew it instinctively, I knew intimately inside that there was a path that I was seeking, but I couldn't really find it anywhere. And then when I came to know the man Christ Jesus, I said, that's my nature playing. That's my nature expressing itself. So that is really the answer to your question. It's really fulfilling your nature. And for me, we human beings, whether it's asleep, whether it's very much present and alive, it's to express and fulfill the nature of Christ.
That's excellent. Because what I love about what you said there was you said you found your true self. So is it possible that many of us are actually following a false self?
When I see the teachings of Christ, and when he talks about the lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son, he's talking about our nature. He's talking about our essence and the misunderstanding of it, and he's using the word lost. And lost is also means we can be found, right?
Yes.
We lose ourselves, but we can also find ourselves. And I honestly believe that we have this true nature in ourselves when we're children. But if it's not expressed through our parents, our teachers, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, then we're kind of we're like a reed in the wind, where we're looking around to and fro, and we might be feeling the nature of Christ, but there's no real expression of it. And so then we take the shape and form of what we see, especially when we're young, right?
Yes.
And then peer pressure comes, and then we go further and deeper into that cycle of deception. And then we finally, we suffer and suffer because of that. And then we realize, hey, I'm suffering. And then we realize there's something not right. I feel I'm lost. and then we see Christ standing at the door of our hearts, and then we say, there you are. That's what I've been waiting for all my life. So I don't know if that explains it to you, but that's
absolutely. No, I think that's great, because you said something in there that I love, is you said we take the shape and form of what we see. So in some ways, is that saying too, as you find Christ, I think I've heard you say in the past, talk a little bit about that being fixed on something, because like if you take the shape of what you see, is that what he's meaning by a single eye? You'll begin to take the shape. Go ahead and expound on that.
Well, the Bible very clearly says that we are created in the image and likeness. Okay?
Yes.
The parable of the coin, for me, the lost coin, I believe that Christ is articulating that very truth. You find an image on a coin, right?
Yes.
That's what you find. And I feel that what Christ was saying was, look, we're like a coin. Our quintessence, our essence is like a coin that is lost.
So the image, because as you were talking about that, the coin doesn't only have an image, but doesn't it have value?
Right. That's a good point. But what I was trying to say is that a coin has an image, right?
Yes.
But an image is not the likeness. Okay. It doesn't have the substance. It's just the outline.
Got it.
It has the potential. So when you start walking in the way of Christ, then the image becomes fully formed. It becomes life-giving. It has substance. It has value, worth, character, and then it starts to shape and form.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It has weight. Do you see my point? I
do. I absolutely see your point.
Potential is the image.
Yeah.
And I believe I see that every day in all human beings. And this is where, Dave, a lot of people might differ, okay, with my understanding of the nature of humanity. I believe that the light of God, like what the Bible talks about, the seed of faith, is in every human being. Now, whether it's discovered, rediscovered, found, that's a completely different equation. There are some people that live their life and they never come to that nature. But deep down, the image is there. That's my point. Deep down, the image is there. And I believe that when we truly come to Christ, he awakens that nature up. The light switch comes on.
Absolutely. And it's dim at first, but that's what you're talking about, is as you walk, it gets a little brighter.
Exactly. That.
And so all of a sudden, because isn't there a verse that talks about that too, is that, you see dimly at first as you stare, but then eventually, yeah. Well, and I want to talk to you about this then too, because, you're talking a lot about, because I feel like the Father's heart, as expressed through Christ, was, they're lost, and he came to find them and show them the real image. That really differs from a message of it's all about your sin, doesn't it?
True. That's very true. Again, look, because sin, however you look at sin means that you're missing the point.
Okay, so that's the definition of sin. You're missing the mark, basically.
You're missing the mark.
Okay.
You're not quite. You sense that something's, not quite there, but you're still missing the mark. You still haven't really looked in the mirror yet.
I got it.
And that's, yeah.
So it's less about, oh my gosh, you are just a sinner, and Jesus, and more he's saying, look, you're missing it. I want to show you who you really are.
Exactly. And he displayed that amazingly. That's why the sinners loved him, because you were either walking the walk or missing the mark. He didn't say this person is a harlot and this one is this and this is that. He had no time for that. He said you're either missing the mark or you're not, but it's no big deal, guys. Don't, you're going to have to face this one day. It wasn't like a panic. Jesus was walking and talking, and there were people that were missing the mark, and there were people that wasn't. You know, and he was very relaxed in that space.
Well, that's a profound point you're talking about. You almost, many people can paint it as he's just trying to, beat the sin out of you by this, where you're just saying, no, he was very loving and generous and kind and patient, really. Is that what you're saying? He just was.
He wasn't, what I'm saying is that he wasn't focused on the sin.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The only time you see Jesus really hitting someone's character is when they were acting as though they were godly.
Wow.
Right? So that's the only time you see really Jesus turning tables or using any form of firm aggression, right?
Yes.
The other time is when guys were playing God, playing with the cloak of Christ, but not wearing it.
Yeah.
And then he comes hard. But with the everyday folk that were really sincerely trying but were lost, he had the whole time for them.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered the so-called godly people.